Hello, good evening, and welcome to our show. This is Steve Sumner. Special thanks to John Anderson and members of the Stolen Club. You can find all of our broadcasts on YouTube or online at www.stolen.club. I'd also like to thank the members of the Beating Drums for Children's Club. You can find them on Facebook, and they're doing fantastic work out there. Beating the Drums for Children groups are doing amazing work. Tonight's guest is Terry Smith Sr. His 11-year-old son, Terry Smith Jr., died under very mysterious circumstances. Mr. Smith has brought his tragic story to the media. He's looking for the truth behind the circumstances of this tragic death. He's been on Dr. Phil, but it hasn't aired yet, and I know he's done a couple of different shows. And we will try to do as much as we can to bring to surface any questions that may involve the circumstances of this tragic event. And I'd like to thank you very much, Mr. Terry Smith. Are you there, sir?
Sure am.
Yes, sir. Please. This is a little bit of a complicated story. I understand Skylar Ecliano, who's 17, made the admission in juvenile court in Riverside County regarding the death of your son, Terry Smith Jr., and the disappearance back in July of 2013 set off a really massive search. Now, his remains were found days later behind his mother's house, but this is a very complicated situation that involves really inexplicable circumstances. And you can begin your story, sir, right at the beginning.
Well, Terry Jr. wanted to go out to stay with his mom, and so we made arrangements and all that back in 2011. And the last time I seen Terry Jr. alive was July 5th of 2011. That was the last time I seen him alive. Now, I got a phone call from him in January of 2013. He was in tears, crying, saying he wanted to come back home. He wanted to come home where he felt loved, and he didn't have to feel like he was either a half-brother or a step-brother or anything like that. But, Terry couldn't really go into a whole lot of detail. So, as soon as he said he wanted to come home, his mom was right there, and she blew a gasket. She goes, well, you can't come home until after you finish your school. So I said, okay, fine. You went ahead and set up the stipulation. So as soon as his schooling is done out there in California, call me, and I'll have a plane ticket ready for him, and he can come home. Well, I didn't get a phone call from her until July 7th, and it was a very casual phone call, and I don't even think it lasted 2 minutes. She come across like, your son is missing, and I go, what? She goes, your son, Terry Jr. is missing, and hung up the phone. That was it. That's what I got called from his mom, and it was like she just misplaced her car keys or something.
Wow.
Well, and later on, I get a call from the head detective on the missing person on July 7th, and he told me, he said, well, Mr. Smith, he said, we want you to stay right where you're at. It's no sense of coming out here to California. There's thousands of people out here on horseback, on foot, in helicopters, everything. There's not much you can do, and with the weather and all that, he said, and I know your age, he said, but with the weather and all that, and the heat wave and all that, it would just be better for you to stay in West Virginia and as close to the phone as possible in case we get any information, because they weren't getting much out of his mother. And I said, okay, that's fine. And his brother and sister back here, they wanted to jump in the car and run out there, and I go, well, they asked us to stay back here. And lo and behold, July 10th, I got a call from another police detective out here in California, and he stated they found remains in the backyard, and asked me if I'd go down to the West Virginia State Police and give them my DNA and all that, and I said that was fine. And so that's what I did. And the next thing I know, I finally decided to go ahead and try to get out to California. Everybody kept saying, well, you go ahead and get free plane fare and this and that and everything else, which was a bunch of baloney. I finally got a hold of American Airlines, and I got what was called a grievance fare, which is half for a round-trip ticket. And in order to get that going, I had to pawn my car off. Now, I know some of the TV stations out there say I sold my car to get it. It wasn't sold, it was pawned. Because I dealt with this used car dealer back there for years. So, he said, do you really want to go out there? There's not much you can do about it. I go, well, I want to go. So he gave me the money for the plane fare. Well, while that was going on, my daughter decided to get with one of the people out there and get a go-to fund going so that I'd have money for plane fare, because this is before I went ahead and pawned the car. But, there wasn't that much in the go-to fund at the time. And the church gave me a $200 check, told me, to get anything out there in California that I needed. So that's what I did. Well, after I got out there, I should say just before I got on the plane, my wife called and said, well, you're not getting his ashes. Well, she said, you're not getting my baby's ashes. And I go, look, son, you didn't want him to begin with. And I'm coming. And so I got out to California, and while I was talking to her on the phone, I flat told her, I said, that I know that you buried our son in the backyard. Well, she didn't skip a beat. She made a couple more comments and hung up the phone. And normally, if I say something to her that she knows positively is false, she'd have gone off on me. And she didn't. She just made a couple more comments, and that was it.
Yeah. Now, Mr. Smith, the community first became aware of the disappearance. We're talking about Sunday, July 7th. Now, the story that... Yes, sir. The story that went out was that Terry's mother left for the evening. She left about 7:30 p.m. on a Saturday. She was going to play pool. She was in a league. And she left your son, 11 years old, in bed with his older brother, Skyler. Okay, that was his babysitter. Now, now she said she returned late. She didn't check in on Terry until the next morning at about 10:30 a.m., and that's when she realized she was missing. She said she notified the police, and it's a small town there. They got out quickly. Now, she claims that your son was autistic and may have wandered off and got lost because there's a lot of rocky hills out in the area. It was 100-degree temperatures, and he wasn't wearing a shirt or shoes. So this is, something that you're bringing into play here that it sounds a little bit strange from what you're saying. Because
that whole story sounds strange because, when I first heard the story was that Skyler was sneaking off to go to one of his friend's house, and Terry Jr. started to follow him, and Skyler told Terry Jr. to go back to the house, and that was the last time Skyler seen him.
But now, they did say he left and he had no shoes and no shirt on, right? That was the initial story?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's... It sounds a little bit strange to me as well, sir, but go ahead.
Well, and then my daughter out there was on Facebook, and somebody was making some kind of derogatory remark, and this is when I was still back here, and, she put on the Facebook thing that, you don't understand the situation. So I went ahead, and I said, all right, what's going on? And she didn't see him. And then I said, I need to know what's going on. If I have to, I'm going to come out there. And lo and behold, instead of her answering any more of the PM or the Facebook thing, she called me. And she goes, Skyler's been sneaking out of the house all the time. And he wanted to sneak out from what she was told, and him and Terry Jr. got in kids and all that, there's certain words, like just about on any family, you know, when certain words are used, there's a meaning behind them.
Yeah.
So when Mary said what they got into it, it means they got physical.
Now, who were we talking about? The two kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
She had three of them. She had Skylar and my other daughter, and Gigi out there. And you know, as soon as the body turned up, I got a call from CPS, and they said, "Well, you're not the biological dad, but you are the legal dad, so we had to notify you that we had removed Mary from the home." And I go, "Okay." And I asked who she was with, and they had placed her with Denise's sister, which is no blood relative or anything else, which sounded kind of strange to me because I got family in California. I got older kids in California. Paul's not that far away from Lake Elsinore or Menifee. You know, there's quite a few family members out there that could have took Mary, but they decided to put her with Denise's sister. So, you know, that kind of got me upset and all that. And while I was talking to my daughter on the phone, and she's telling me that I don't understand, and they got into it and all that, she told me, because I told her, I said, well, you know, if I have to, I'll be out there in California to find out what's going on. Well, as soon as I told her that, she said, Dad, don't come out here because you're not going to like what's going to happen if you come out here. And I told her, I said, what do you mean by that? And she goes, I can't go any further. So after I got out there, that's when the thing started slowly leaking out. That she had, the reason she was claiming that Terry Jr. was ADHD and autistic that's what she was trying to get him diagnosed as. And he hadn't been.
Okay, but just to be clear, sir, you feel this is an excuse or some kind of rationale that she's using and throwing out there. You don't feel that he was autistic in any way, shape, or form, right?
Well, I know he wasn't.
Okay, he wasn't diagnosed by a physician or anyone?
Well, they went through the CPS case with my daughter in China, and they got a hold of the doctor. And the doctor said he'd never been diagnosed with autism or ADHD. In fact, he hadn't had any kind of what do you call it? He wasn't diagnosed on anything. What they were looking at was maybe ADD.
Right.
That was the only thing they were looking at.
Okay. Yeah,
which kind of got me confused because they were using a Risperdal. And I do have friends that have autistic kids and ADHD that are on it. And I don't know how he got on that med. And when it comes to my ex, she really doesn't care about side effects. She just does what she does to get a bigger check. And I told her, I said, you know, you pulled all this on Skyler, which is my stepson, and I had no way of stopping that. I said, but Shauna, this is Terry Jr., this is our son. I got a lot of say in this one because you're supposed to get a hold of me anytime you take him to the doctor or any kind of surgery or anything else. I said, and I never even knew that you were trying to get him diagnosed as autistic. And even while they were searching for him and all that, his teachers out there got a backlash because they even claimed on the national news that he was not autistic.
Okay.
And they go, you know, teachers, they got down a teacher's case about that, and the teachers are pretty well trained to look for stuff like that.
Yeah. No, from what I know about autism, and you know, I'm certainly not a doctor or a physician or a psychiatrist or anything like that, but yeah, there would have been signs. I wanted to bring that out to the forefront because the story, this really gets strange. Now, this initially just happened, but there were bloodhounds. They traced the scent of the boy to the end of the dirt road very near to the family's house. Okay, so the Riverside County Sheriff was right on it. There was a list of agencies that assisted in the effort. There were literally hundreds of residents locally from nearby communities. They're out there in the extreme heat. They're searching a 55-mile radius around the house. Okay, but nothing happened, right? What?
Right. Well, even the detective that was doing the thing on missing persons said they had cadaver dogs searching the whole place, and even Shauna stated that they had people out there with sticks.
Yeah,
Now,
horseback.
if he was in a shallow grave in the backyard, and I'm sorry, if somebody got a shallow stick and poking around, I'm pretty sure they would have found the loose dirt.
Not just the bloodhounds, but from the reports that I'm seeing here, I mean, we're talking the fire department, the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, hundreds of volunteers in helicopters, on the ground, on horseback, on motorcycles, on foot. And this goes on for days and days, and nothing was found. There was certainly no trace of the boy, right?
Nope.
Okay.
In fact, when the psychic found the body, it totally surprised the police department, the whole nine yards. Even the head detective that was doing the initial missing persons that blew him away. He said because right where it was her and her two kids and an off-duty apartment that's found in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a radio show the same night that the body was found. And they wanted clarification that they found the body, so they talked to the lead detective, and he told them right there on the radio station that he was sitting in that very spot and didn't see anything out of place. And see, it's not just Terry Jr.'s death that's really bugging me, is how people went through that whole area, including the backyard and all that, and nothing showed up until the psychic found the body. And according to her, she's seen hair in part of his head out of the ground.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is an unbelievable part of the story. This is really incredible. After days of searching, and again, a massive search by professionals, by volunteers, by everyone, day after day, this woman comes along, and I've heard the detectives speaking on this. They did clear her. She wasn't found to be complicit in any type of foul play or anything. She didn't do anything criminal. But this lady's name is Pam Ragland, and the story goes that sometimes in the evening hours of Tuesday night, she had some visions, and she called the tip line. She put her two young children in her car. She drove out all the way out from Orange County to look for your son. And then an off-duty fireman drove her around the city, and eventually really very close to the home of where your son was living, where Terry was living. And this is sometime around midnight. And the family was at home, supposedly. They're sitting outside in the driveway. It's a 2-acre property, so it's not even that big. But, but they wandered around the property in the dark. And what the story is that the 12-year-old daughter of this psychic who supposedly saw the visions, the 12-year-old daughter of Pam Ragland, came across what she thought was a dead animal, but it was actually, unfortunately, the top 2 or 3 inches of Terry's head sticking up out of the ground, already in a state of decomposition. This seems so unlikely, so incredible. I mean, what are your thoughts on this, sir?
Well, see, I talked to the people after I got out there. You know, I had my memorial, and I talked to the people that were searching and all that, and I talked to a lot of the residents of Menifee, and, even they themselves don't believe that Skyler had enough body muscle in the whole 9 yards to carry the body all the way out there, much less dig the hole. In fact, I had one of the searchers, she goes, Mr. Smith, you don't understand. She says, my son is a volunteer fireman, and he's pretty well built. He said, but it takes forever to dig a hole out here. And not only that, but, he was right there by a tree, so you got the roots and everything else. So, there's a lot of people in Menifee that don't believe that Skyler buried a body all by himself. Nobody does. And even after it came about, when he got the plea bargain done and all that, and they did another news interview, even Denise, which is the lady that owns the property, she says, I still don't believe that the body was there the whole 3 days. And that was on national TV. That was her remarks.
Yeah, it seems very unlikely they'd miss something like that, given the nature of the searches. Just bloodhounds alone, you'd think would take you such a short
Well,
distance.
yeah, when I talked to the detective that day, he said, Mississippi, you got to understand that the cadaver dogs that they were using were for above ground
Huh.
bodies and not below ground. But even at that, even at an above ground body, his head was partially sticking out.
Well,
So the dogs would have picked up. The dogs would have picked up on that.
yeah. How long before the dogs actually picked up the scent? Because the scent will last, and they should have followed the scent from, if the boy was walking from the house to where initially this crime occurred. Did they explain any of that? How they could have lost the track?
No. Now, see, the one thing that's got me broken about the whole thing, I watched everything on the news from back here because I was told to stay in West Virginia. And I've seen the different TV interviews and reports and all that. And I've noticed that everybody that was residing in the home kept pushing everybody further away from the house. Now, I thought it was kind of strange because they said, well, they found bloody footprints in a sockway or such and such, or somebody said they seen something in a drainage ditch and this stuff. But all this stuff was further and further away from the house. Now, even my sister-in-law was out there, and her boyfriend at the time, he had health problems. And they were searching all over the place. And even, they even told her, well, he was spotted over here, he was spotted over there. Because everybody in the house kept pushing everybody further away from the property. And so, all I could do was just surmise what little information I was getting. That I do know that on the 10th or the 11th, the FBI was supposedly to be getting in on the missing person. And as soon as I heard that the FBI was going to get involved in all this, lo and behold, that's when the body shows up. So I had to do my conjunctions and all that. And really and truly, the only thing that I've ever got out of this whole situation was that he died of a skull fracture and his brain swelled up. Now, I've seen movies and CSIs and all that, and nobody called in. No one called 911. And from what I was told, the severity of the blow, the brain swell was instamatic. Now, I've never heard that come out before on any of that. Because it just takes a while for the brain to swell up. But, that's what I was told. It was instamatic, and he never knew what hit him and this, that, and everything else. But I do know after we did the Dr. Phil show, and Dr. Phil came up with some stuff, that there was several blows, up to 5, I think. I'm not sure about that. And don't quote me on this, but that's what I was hearing. And I do know that Dr. Phil was kind of shocked to find out that there was quite a few people from Menifee, California in the audience. Because they wasn't answers, too. And I don't blame them, because all these people took, they took time out of their lives and jeopardized their lives, really, with the heat and all that, searching for the body, and everybody was upset with all the reactions and everything from their mother, because no one seen her shedding tears, and it didn't really seem to be bothering her any. And the whole time that they were out searching and all that, they were having barbecues and going out and pulling everything else.
Reminds me a little bit of the Susan Smith news conferences when the woman who drowned her 3 kids, and she would give these press conferences saying how terrible the situation was, but she never shed a tear. So it kind of rings a bell here with other suspicious deaths. Now, I'm seeing here an interview with NBC in L.A., and she's quoted as saying that it was an accident. That for the one thing that's certain, is that Terry died of blunt force trauma to the head. And I'm quoting the article that she believes her younger son died while the boys were roughhousing. He hit his head on a coffee table, and that the elder son panicked and hit his body. So it was an accident gone awry. It doesn't really ring true in a sense, because if they're roughhousing and Terry hits his head, I mean, you'd call 911. You would think.
Exactly. Now, Skyler's not stupid. And even there's a lot of Skyler's schoolmates and friends and all that that, you know, they knew the situations as far as what was going on in the home. Now, you know, prior to that, he took off and his probation officer picked him up, and he told his probation officer he didn't want to go back to the home because he was afraid he was going to hurt his sister or his brother. And so they called Shauna, and Shauna said, well, you know, I think her comment was right around the order of, you know, make up your mind, either take him to juvenile hall or bring him home because I need a babysitter. I do know that I've talked to other people out there in Menifee that has stated to me that every time she went out playing pool and all that stuff, Terry Jr. was with her. And they thought it was kind of strange that all of a sudden she started watching it back there in July. Now, I do know from what I heard, I said when they go out to shoot pool, Mary would go stay with one of her friends and all that, and Terry Jr. would go with them. Now, why all of a sudden at that point in time it got changed, I'll never know. Like I said, there's way too many holes in the story. There's too many unanswered questions as far as what happened to the body the 3 days that everybody was searching, then miraculously the body shows up in the backyard. And this roughhouse and stuff, I'm not buying that either. Because, you know, even mine around here, the roughhouse would, but it doesn't get to that severity, because if it does, I'd stop it right then and there. I'll tell them, all right, you know, go to your mutual corners and cool off. But, you know, even with me growing up, you know, I've had older brothers and sisters, and we've got into it too. And I've got pounded down quite a few times, but it never got to that severity.
Yeah.
But
No.
you know, she even brought the coffee table theory up to Dr. Phil on the Dr. Phil show.
Oh, really?
I hate kind of to let everybody know exactly what went on with the Dr. Phil show, but he even brought up, I guess he was able to get more information than what I had been getting out. That from the condition of the body and all that, it's going to take more than just being shoved and hitting their head on the coffee table.
Was there ever any evidence? And I'm sure, you know, knowing Justin and the people at Dr. Phil show, was there ever any evidence of you know, like DNA evidence, anything along those lines?
Not that I know of. I do know that Dr. Phil, before I got out there, I guess he talked to Shauna, because she came on the show first. And his question to her was if, you know, she seen any red flags. And she told him there wasn't no red flags. And then lo and behold, when I get out there, and I let it out that Skyler at the time was on probation for felony assault. And then, you know, the lawyer that I had at the time that was filing a wrongful death suit, he not only came up with the felony assault charge, he also came up with the problems that Skyler was having with alcohol and drugs, which I never knew about.
Okay. And what's your personal feeling? What would you? What is what your instincts, your gut feeling tell you about the actual circumstances involving what happened?
Well, my honest feeling about the whole thing is she didn't want Terry Jr. coming on, because she was afraid after Terry Jr. got back here that Terry Jr. was going to tell me exactly what was really going on out in California.
You feel she was responsible for his death?
Well, I know she was. The reason Skyler was in as bad a shape as he was is because of Shauna. diagnostic done on him so she can get the Social Security. And I know she was losing control of Skyler, because Skyler, he was 16 going on 17, and before you know it, he's going to be 18. So, she was going to lose that income. And, I'm not trying to dog her or anything, but it follows her MO that, especially with after I found out after months and months of catching a little bit here and a little bit there, she was doing the exact same thing to Jerry Jr. that she did with Skyler.
Now, let me
and everything else. Yeah.
Let me ask you, Mr. Smith, I'm just wondering, because this obviously would be something that's an important question, but Skyler's 17, and he did make the admission, okay, they took him to juvenile court in Riverside County, and he did admit to being guilty. Do you think he was being coerced? Do you think he's...
Well, there's a lot of people speculating on that there, too, A lot of people figured that, that maybe Shy had a lot more to do with it, and she coerced Skyler into taking the blame because he was a juvenile. And, that theory could work out, too. I just know that the story that came out about how he came up missing, that story had so many holes in it, and it seemed positively rehearsed. Now, a lot of people said that the last time they remember seeing Juju was in or around July 4th, but they couldn't positively swear that's the last, that it was him when they seen him on the 4th, but nobody's seen him after that. And from what I understand, he used to go to the store all the time. So it was right there by the house. But nobody can remember seeing him after the 4th of July, for one thing.
Wow.
And I do know that the lady that did the cremation, and, after they were talking about the shape of the body and all that, and I even brought it up to the DA, and he said, well, the coroner can't come up with a positive date. But he would say, it wasn't more than, a couple of weeks.
Well, let me ask you, so did it seem from the coroner's report that the time frame fit the circumstances when it was called in, the 3 days it took to find him? Was there a likelihood that the time frame was correct?
That I'm not sure of it. I even brought it up. I haven't been able to get a hold of the coroner's report. In fact, the death certificate that I got, I should say my lawyer got, and he dropped out of the wrongful death because that didn't pan out. But he did send me all the paperwork he got, and the death certificate I got, when it comes down to cause of death, it says pending. Now, there's also another slide in there that asks, the amount of years that the child was in the county, and it's got 11 on it, and I know he wasn't out in California for 11 years. He was only out there 2. So even that's wrong on the death certificate. And for them to put down pending, especially after, Skyler's already admitted to manslaughter and been sentenced and all that, I don't see why it would still be pending. I don't see why the death certificate just didn't come out with murder or homicide. Because, whether it be manslaughter or involuntary manslaughter or murder or anything else, it would still say cause of death would be homicide. And blunt force trauma to the head would make more sense to me. But to just put down pending, it still doesn't make any sense. Now, I don't know how it could still be sitting on pending after the plea bargain's been done in the whole 9 yards.
Right.
As far as I know, it's not. They stopped their investigation as soon as the body was found, and after the body was found, that's when Skyler went ahead and confessed. And as soon as he confessed, I'm not trying to blame the authorities out there or the whole 9 yards, but that's part of the course. That as soon as somebody confesses, they just quit searching. But there's no more digging. But even I don't even think the police department or the DA was buying the whole story Skyler was putting out there.
Hmm.
So, his story kept changing and changing and changing, from what I understand. I don't know for certain, but, and I do know that they took Shauna and them down and they did a polygraph, and they passed it. But, polygraphs still aren't admissible in court.
Right. That's right.
And I do know that the lady that did the cremation heard some comments about right after they got back from that, but that's all hearsay, so I really can't go too deep into that. But it was something to the order that we passed it, we don't know how, but we did. That sort of a remark, which she thought was kind of off. Now, I do know that I talked to some of the researchers and some of the friends that were friends of Shauna's that were calling when he was missing, and there was more than one time that Shauna made the remark that she just pictures him under a tree waiting for her to come and get him, and this is before they found the body. And lo and behold, when the body was found, he was found under a tree.
Hmm.
So that's another little puzzle part that I put together on that. If she's going to make that kind of comment before the body was found, and lo and behold, his body was found under a tree.
Hmm.
Especially when she said that he was scared of trees and scared of rocks and scared of water. And I know all three of them were false. So, Terry, do you love climbing trees back here? Do you love climbing the rocks? There's tons of rocks back here. And he also loved them. He and Hannah were both my water bugs. Any time during the summer, it was Dad, let's go to the pool, or Dad, let's go to the creek. Terry G was never scared of water.
Okay. So, you feel what's your initial feeling with the psychic, with Pam Ragland suddenly coming into the picture and finding the body, and even your ex-wife's partner said, "Look, we know the area. The body couldn't have been there." I mean, part of the misunderstanding, the thing that's not clicking with me, is that they're saying, okay, this was roughhousing between the two boys. He panicked. He dragged the body out there and he put it under the tree. But now they're also coming out and saying, well, we know the property, and it wasn't, there's no way that it could have been there. It's a little contradictory right there, right?
Right.
Yeah. And how do you feel Pam Ragland comes in? I mean, she was cleared. Obviously, the detectives, John Powers was on KFI News. I heard his show. The story was correct. They went up and down, and believe me, something like this, obviously, they're going to be looking at her as the primary suspect.
Oh, yeah, from what I got on the story on that, they took her down and they grilled her, the off-duty fire department, firemen, and her kids, and cleared them. But they went to the ringer from what I understood on that one.
How would you explain it?
Even John Powers told me that he was totally amazed that, because he was standing in that same spot.
Hmm.
And he said the police department and everybody was totally floored when the psychic came up and found the body. Nobody had any inkling that, all that ground had been turned inside out almost. From what I understand, there were people all over the yard and in the surrounding areas and all that. And even Shauna said they were out in the yard and surrounding areas and had sticks poking. And she brought that up on the Dr. Phil show.
Hmm.
And I do know on the Dr. Phil show that I've told Dr. Phil that, this whole case has got so many holes in it, it's not even funny. And even Shauna agreed to that when she goes, yeah, there's way too many holes in the story.
But if she's saying that it was roughhousing by the kids, I mean, what is she saying that Skyler said that explains the 3 days?
Well, they said them explain the 3 days as far as where the body was at, because, like I said, even Denise said that she knows her property and all that, and the body couldn't be there for the 3 days. So where was the body at before it was found?
But what I'm saying is your ex-wife.
Yeah, well,
She's claiming.
we're trying to, I have to take everything China says with a grain of salt. But I had some people that were child advocate lawyers and everything else, and they go, Terry, it sounds like, and they go, it sounds like, and from her expressions and all that, it sounds like she's a sociopath. So, I decided, okay, I'll look up the profile of a sociopath on the internet. And, I was expecting, maybe a couple of things to click on the profile and all that. But lo and behold, it was like 100%.
Yeah.
It was like somebody followed China around just to write up the profile. And it even stated on the profile that sociopaths can very easily pass a polygraph.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm very familiar with Dr. Hare's work on psychopaths and psychopathy. He is like the leading proponent of the field. And yeah, they do have a checklist that you go down, and they can fool anybody. I mean, people like Ted Bundy or Jeffrey Dahmer, who was caught with a victim and the police give the victim back. Ted Bundy, the judge is telling him, hey, partner, you would have made a great attorney. They fool, even after the fact, they still fool people. So believe me, there's no question about it that this could definitely be a case of a psychopathic woman here. But I'm still not understanding the 3-day gap, and you have to forgive me, but so getting back to your wife, she was saying that Skylar did it roughhousing, but yet so she's claiming then that Skylar didn't say anything to her until the body was found?
Well, even my sister-in-law said she took Skylar out in the garage while Terry Jr. was missing, and he never made any indications or anything to her. She said she had a feeling he was hiding something, but even still, he wouldn't say anything to her either. That's one way or the other. According, I do know that my one daughter that was in California called back to North Carolina, and she told her cousin back there that her brother's body was cut up and buried in the backyard and was burnt and all kinds of stuff. And, as soon as I started hearing rumors like this and all that, I got with the detective firsthand on the homicide. And, there was even mentions about a rock and all that. And the detective, he assured me that the body was intact. It was never burned. And as far as he knows, there was nothing about a rock. Never investigated.
Mr. Smith, take us through the details of how Skylar was even charged with the crimes and what he initially said to detectives. But for right this minute, let me go ahead, and I see that we're running a little late on a quick commercial break here. Our guest tonight is Terry Smith. This is the really incredible story of his murdered son, who's 11. And we're going to take a very quick pause for the cause. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello.
All right, this is Steve Sumner. Welcome back to the show with the Stolen Club. We have tonight Mr. Terry Smith, who has had tragic circumstances under in regards to the death of his 11-year-old son, Terry Smith Jr. We've been talking about just these very, very unique circumstances, and we'd like to find out. We left off when Skylar was arrested. Skylar Atiano was 17 when he made the admission in juvenile court as to killing the 11-year-old Terry Smith Jr. And these circumstances seem to be very strange. Obviously, if you've heard the first part of the show, you understand that this is just not your run-of-the-mill case closed type of thing, and that's why Mr. Smith is here. Mr. Smith, I was wondering then, what were the circumstances when Skylar was arrested? Because for days they said he was roughhousing, that it was an accident, and for days he didn't say anything. All of a sudden, he does admit to it after they find the body. He admits to this. Now, when they came to the home, was it something, did he just confess to the detectives as soon as they came in, or did they take him to the station? How did that happen?
See, that's one thing that I found out. All I found out is after they found the body, Skylar confessed to it. They didn't say, he did it right after they found the body or during questioning or whatever. All I was told is after the body was found, he confessed to it. Now I do know that all the searchers and all that said he was earnest, in everything as far as out there telling everybody he was trying to find his brother and he wanted his brother home and the whole 9 yards. And he was at the search area, the search command spot quite a few times. In fact, he was seen from what I understand from Pam Rapp, that she noticed him down there when she showed up, that he was down there.
And this is around midnight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is days later. But all this time, Skylar, who again confessed to being the perpetrator of this crime, whether it was an accident or not. I mean, this is unbelievable that a 17-year-old would have the presence of mind to not say anything, to not give it away in any way, shape, or form. I'm finding that difficult to understand, unless you're correct. I mean, you feel, I'm assuming that your wife was, during the 3 days that we're looking, were they coaching Taylor, Skylar?
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think she was coaching Skylar? She was telling him what to say, or you think she just kind of kept him in the dark, and then at the very last minute she said, "Hey, we're gonna say it's you because you're not gonna get sentenced away for life. It's only gonna be a few years." As it is, I mean, he's gonna be out under the law. He can only be held until he's 23. So in 3 days, I mean, she definitely might have known all this and convinced him to do so. And this would be what you're proposing, is that right?
Yeah. Well, it's not just me. There's quite a few people that feel that maybe he was forced into taking the fall for it because him being a juvenile, that he wouldn't get as much time done on him. And that even came up on some of my Facebooks when we were talking about the case. That his mom probably went ahead and coerced him and said, "Well, look, if I get accused of it and have to go to trial and all that, I'm an adult and I can get put away for life. But you're a teenager, you're underage, and you wouldn't get that much." And I do know that she tried everything she could to make sure he didn't get tried as an adult.
Right. In fact, I'm unclear as to that. Did they try him as an adult after all, or?
No, they went ahead and like I said, the plea bargain came out, and the reason they did the plea bargain is because they wanted to keep him in juvenile.
Okay.
And I know for certain all the hell that Skylar went through since he was 7.5. He was with his brother 24/7. She wouldn't let him out of her sight. So I of hell in the cur. And even after I caught some of his Facebook stuff and all that before they cut it down. And he sent a Facebook thing to her to the fact that he needed to get out of the house because he's about ready to lose it. And she told him, no, you need to stay there and stay at home. And his comment to that was somewhat like, well, I don't see how you can call this a home. It's never been a home. Why don't you let me go where I know I'm loved and cared for? And he wanted out of there. I do know the whole time he's been in juvenile hall, his total outlook changed. His personality seemed to be switching up because I know when they first arrested him, he had piercing and God knows what all, and he looked pretty good, and he started doing good in school and the whole 9 years. He felt safer and better off in juvenile hall than he did at home, though. That's
Wow.
Say something.
Yeah, it sure does. Because from what I've read briefly, and I don't have any quotes directly, but the judge partially based his decision to prosecute him, to give him the sentence that he did, because Skylar had a history of violence. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I got into it with the son of that. It didn't get heated, but I got into it quite a few times. I told him, I said, look, you need to get him the right kind of help, because if you don't, he's either going to wind up in prison or dead.
Now you're talking about Skylar, right?
I do know that. Yeah, I
Okay.
do know that she had Skylar in Pennsylvania because it went through my court divorce and all that. That he was in. She put him in Pennsylvania, just outside of West Virginia. And the comment that the judge made at that time was something to the effect that, do you really think that just because you put him over here in Pennsylvania that we wouldn't find out about it? And all that stuff got into our divorce. And while he was in there, she wasn't able to go see him that often because he was at a distance, I guess. And from what I understand and from what I read through all the stuff that I got on my divorce talk, he started opening up, talking to a therapist and a psychiatrist and orderlies and all that down there. He started opening up, and as soon as he started opening up about what was really going on, lo and behold, Shauna pulled him out of there fast.
It sounds
like... I do know that from what I got, CPS and all that, offered 6 months for Skylar, and Shauna turned that down.
Yeah, because it sounds like she would be culpable of some kind of negligence if she knew. Supposing, let's go on the premise that Skylar did.
I do know that with the CPS case, that they came up with child abuse, child neglect, and child endangerment.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to the CPS worker. Then I go, well, why is she still walking around? Why hasn't she been charged and at least going to trial for it? And the CPS worker told me flat out that the DA is the one that has to file on that.
Hang on, there's.
Wait a minute.
Sorry for interrupting you, Mr. Smith, but now there is a 14-year-old half-sister, right, Mary?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so did CPS, did they take away the half-sister?
Yeah.
They did?
Took both away from her.
Oh, okay.
In fact, her didn't even want to go home, from what I understood.
Okay, so...
And the information I got, she was better. She felt better being away from her mother.
So what CPS did on their behalf was to at least kind of play it safe with the girl with the half sister who's only 14, and so they took her away after. But it sounds like they weren't able to convince a judge to bring criminal charges or any other kind of charges against your wife, given the neglect that happened because she was out playing pool when all this supposedly occurred, right?
Well, that's the one thing that got me confused because, she went to a CPS. Now, CPS, I don't know if CPS got different court rules and regular court and all that, but from what I got on the CPS court case and all that, she was charged with child abuse, child neglect, and child endangerment. Now, I don't know how it works out there. That's got me totally confused too. You know, if they came up with those three things, then why wasn't she at least charged with it? Because if it came out in a CPS case, a court case, then isn't that the same legal system as?
No, actually, from my understanding of it, and I'm a Florida resident. I'm not an attorney, certainly, but believe me, I've definitely been through the system. I'm fighting my own battles with the family court system. But it sounds like what happened here, it went through a dependency, now family court, divorce court, as we know from, that's coming out now, is a court of equity. You're not entitled to really constitutional rights or an attorney or anything like that. It's a special kind of court that really, really needs to be changed. But it sounds like they went through dependency court, which is halfway between, in my understanding, between family court, where a judge grants custody of children, to a dependency court where the state wants to take away the kids. Now, that being said, you would imagine, and I think this is why you're trying to reopen the case and you're bringing attention to the case, is that if she was found guilty of neglect, then why aren't there any criminal charges being brought against Shauna? Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Like I said, they came up with child abuse, child neglect, and child endangerment. And even in the CPS case, it stated that she had to know, the condition and the mental stability and everything of Skyler, especially with everything that CPS came up with. And that's another thing that got me confused because, I was getting paperwork from that because I'm Mary's legal dad. To that effect, they were called out in April with broken fingers with Juju and allegations of broken fingers with Juju and allegations of Skyler threatening Shauna as far as turning her in for emotional abuse. And this was back in April. And it got evaluated away. Now, what they mean by evaluated away doesn't make any sense to me. Out here, flat out. In fact, a lot of the stuff that happened to Skyler out here, he had to wind up with at least 6 months in a mental hospital or mental facility to get totally checked out, especially if he's threatening his own bodily injury, which I found out later on that he tried to commit suicide by taking a bunch of pills and all that stuff.
Now, who's this?
That's Skyler, and this was way before Terry Jr. even come up missing.
So we're talking about Skyler was a troubled kid. It's a 17-year-old. He really did have issues.
Oh yeah, he had a ton of issues, and I do know that China probably got him diagnosed with postpartum depression syndrome or whatever disorder or whatever they got. I don't know how that's. I know it's the same thing as the military, the PT.
Oh, the post-traumatic stress disorder. Yes.
Yeah, and she even brought that up back here in our divorce court. That she made all kinds of allegations that I molested Skyler and I abused Skyler and everything. Now everything back here was totally clear. I'd been investigated by everybody back here except for the CIA, the KGB, and the FBI. In fact, the last CPS worker that came up, I think that when she tried to get another CPS thing done on me in California, I think, that worker came to the house and she goes, Mr. Smith, she says, I went through all of your CPS cases and everything. And she says, I'll tell you right here, right now, she says, you've been through the ringer. And I do know, I think she told me they put a flag on my CPS cases and all that. That anybody that turns me into CPS, they're going to be investigated before they come to me with it. Because they've been out so many times, like from when she took off to North Carolina, she did one. When she went to New York, she did one. When she came back to West Virginia, she did one. She had a friend of hers in Maryland that she had an affair with, turned me in. me, she said, well, we don't even know where Mrs. Smith's been at, so we don't know where to start the investigation with. And I brought everything, all my CPS reports, court reports, divorce stuff, everything. And I gave them a fine line. In fact, I gave them a paper trail from 2005 all the way up to 2013 as to where Shauna was at, where she went, and the whole 9 yards. And they got copies of all that. And then the CPS worker called back here because I said, if you need anything else, you can get a hold of CPS back here and then they can get it for you. And then, lo and behold, I got a DHR worker come out here. She goes, they wanting you to sign this paper for information release because they're trying to get a case started on you. And the CPS worker back here said they're not gonna reopen the case because it's already been cleared since 2007, 2008. She said everything's been investigated in the whole 9 yards. So they weren't going to do it. And the worker even told me, she said, they seem like they're trying to dig up some dirt on you, and there's nothing there whatsoever.
Now, was she bringing these false allegations prior to what happened, prior to the crime, or after?
Oh, yeah. No, she started, I'd say, since 2006.
Okay.
In 2006, we got remarried on Valentine's Day because she asked me if I'd remarry her. And, she made me promises, and Skylar wanted to come home, and that was the only way I could get Skylar home.
Okay.
That's why we got remarried. And, she made me promises that she'd get, because at that time she was diagnosed with being bipolar. She said she'd get back on her meds, and we'd work things out in the whole 9 yards. Well, it come to find out, that was all a farce just to get everything voided out from our first divorce, because on our first divorce, I had custody of all 4 kids.
Okay.
And then, then she went to New York. What she did, she filed a false domestic violence case on me. Had me and my 2 kids at that time removed from the apartment we were in. In fact, it took us 8 days to get back into it. She had me served illegally because I was supposed to be served the next day. That she went down. She got the false domestic violence thing to have me removed, and I was supposed to be served the next day. She came by the pool where me and the kids were having a pool day, started a bunch of stuff. Somebody called the cops, and the cops served me right in there, which upset the judge on my divorce, the divorce judge, because she said, he flat told her, he said, you had him served illegally to begin with, because he wasn't supposed to be served until the next day. And
yeah, that's
down there and you started stuff.
that's part of the playbook. I hear it every day. In fact, I'm living that nightmare myself. False allegations. They can say anything to the judge, and they'll get the restraining order and everything else. So I feel your sympathy, Mr. Smith. That's for sure.
Well, the day she had me served, and me and the kids were removed. As soon as I started walking back to the car, unload the hold, I hear I got Hannah and Jeremiah follow with me, and Terry Jr. wanted to come with me, and Mary wanted to go with me, and she grabbed Terry Jr. and Mary, and the officer at the time goes, well, who are these 2 kids? I said, these are my other 2 kids, and he was puzzled. And as soon as we got to the apartment, the police knew that they'd been used and they'd been had.
Wow.
He said, make sure you got enough stuff for you and the kids to take one of these, because we had multiple PlayStations. He said, take one of the game systems for the kids and the whole night. He says, I'm sorry about all this. And in fact, I think 9 days after we got booted out of the apartment, I bumped into him down at the office at the complex. And he goes, did you finally get it? I go, yeah, it took me 8 days. And the kid's advocate lawyer to convince the judge that she left the next day, because that's exactly what she did. She had me served. She spent the night there, had a pizza party, and took off the next day and left the car that I bought her. And in fact, that's how I found out she left, because a neighbor told me. He goes, Terry, your car is sitting over there by the Greyhound bus station, and it's always though. I go, no, my car, just no, the one you bought, Sean, the Chevy. I go, okay. And she had the only ignition key to the car. And I had a door key but no ignition key.
Hmm.
So that ran me $50 to have the key we did. And I told the child, I think it worried. She got a hold of the judge, and the judge he wasn't going for it for a while. And finally he said, all right, you tell Mr. Smith to go check the apartment. And if she's not in the apartment, then him and the kids can stay. But if she's in the apartment, he's to turn around and walk back out and shut the door. And I told the child, I think, I said, I know she's not there. And sure enough, and she went through everything that I had on my first divorce and all my paperwork and all that at the time. I mean, everything. And this was stuff from AOL from when she was into female domination and all kinds of stuff on the internet that I tried to get into the divorce thing, and the judge wasn't going for it until she sent me a thing on AOL stating that she was going to raise our daughter as a lesbian, and I gave it to the child advocate lawyer, and the child advocate lawyer took it to the judge. And that's when the judge decided, okay, well, he was going to make the decision what to be brought into court and whatnot, and that pissed her off.
I got to tell you, that's part of the, again, mentioning Dr. Hare's work on psychopathy, but that is part of the checklist of a clinical psychopath. And I know, because of personal experience, they are very sexually driven. They have no inhibitions, so they go out and they do all these things. So believe me, everything you're telling me is fitting into that profile. Of course, I'm not a psychiatrist or a doctor or anything along those lines, but I have experienced what you've gone through. Mr. Smith, I did want to go back to the night of the crime of July 6th and 7th, when they last saw your son. There was the 14-year-old girl. Where was she? Was she at the home, or was she not there?
No, from what I understand, she was at a friend's house, which makes sense. From what the stuff that I got from different people that know Shauna and Denise and her out shooting the pool and all that, that fit on what they told me and not what Shauna and the story was about Terry Jr. being left for Skyler to be babysit. Now,
Okay.
They did state that normally when they had to go out and do their pool tournaments and all that Mary would stay with a friend, and she would be with them.
Okay,
now,
so
Mary was gone from the house that night, so that matched what I was told from a few people that was Shauna's usual MO.
Okay, so that wasn't something that was an unusual occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, another thing.
The only thing unusual about it was the fact that she had Skyler babysitting Terry Jr., and even Mary told me that Shaw already knew that all the time that they went out to shoot pool, and Terry Jr. went with, supposedly went with Denise and Shauna, that Skyler would sneak out of the house. So, Shauna knew anytime that she left Skyler, he was going to leave the home. So, why all of a sudden that night would she decide, all right, he's got to babysit, knowing that he's going to get up and leave the house?
Huh. And
that's another thing that just doesn't add up.
And just to be clear, who would normally babysit when they went out for these pool tournaments?
Nobody that I know of. Or like I said, from what I got from other people that know when they went out playing pool and all that Terry Jr. would be with them while they were playing pool, and Mary would go to one of her friends' house.
Oh, okay. So
because they knew Skyler as soon as they went out to shoot pool and all that, Skyler's going to sneak out of the house.
Okay.
That was the normal for Sky. And when Shauna's not around, Skyler's going to take off.
It doesn't sound to me, sir, and to play devil's advocate here, but it doesn't sound to me like it would be too far-fetched to think that Skyler did commit this crime.
Well, that's a good possibility, because I know them, but I know he had problems with his temper when while they were in Morgantown, West Virginia, he broke Mary's arm, and that story was covered up that she was in a swing 4 months to get Terry Jr. back in 2006. And, Mary told me, in confidence, she goes, Dad, I didn't jump out of a swing to break my arm. She said Skylar did it. But don't tell nobody. Well, that left me in a pickle.
Yeah.
Do I keep my daughter's little secret and take a chance, or do I go ahead and do what a normal parent would do, and at least get a hold of the child advocate lawyer, and let her know, and let her make the decision whether or not. And that's what I did. I didn't do it to blow my trust with Mary. I just did it out of a legal sense. And Mary called me one time when they were in New York, and she was crying and all that. And I go, "What's the matter?" She said, "Well, Skylar jumped on me," and she said, "I think he broke my ribs." Or I said, "Well, what's Mama saying to me?" She said, "Oh, it probably just bruised your leg." So that was never checked out. But and I told John, I said, this thing, Skylar needs the help. You keep putting all this stuff in Skylar's head about how this went and that went, and she did it with Mary too. Mary would tell me, "Well, this happened." I go, "Mary, that's never happened." Well, that's what Mom told me. And I'm going, "I'm sorry, baby, but it never happened." And it was like she was programming the kids.
Yeah.
To fit what she wanted done, and that was it.
Yeah, it seems to me you're absolutely correct, and your proposition that Shauna, your wife or ex-wife, should be charged criminally with something. It doesn't make sense to me that, knowing all of this, even if there is no real evidence to show that she. And by the way, sir, would you suggest, is there any type of motive that you can think of that would make you believe that she is actually the perpetrator of this crime?
Well, there's one time that she was, I don't know if you're familiar with Paint Shop Pro or not. It's
Yes.
thing on the computer.
Yeah, it's a.
Take a photo or whatever.
Yes, absolutely. It is a lot like Photoshop, and yeah, so.
She was sitting at the computer one night, and she was working on Paint Shop Pro, and she had a full bottle of Mountain Dew. And at that time, the computer wasn't doing what she wanted it to do, so she got totally ticked and threw the bottle of Mountain Dew up against the wall, and Mountain Dew went flying everywhere. So I go, "Oh, great, now I guess we got this mess to clean up." She goes, "I'll take care of it." Well, 3 days later, I had to clean it. So I've seen her tempers. And there was a time she got upset with me while we were in the bed, and she punched me. Now I've never hit her. Now I do know back in 2005 when she took off with Skylar, and she came back right at the end of 2005, and we started getting into a heated argument, and I was about ready to walk out, and all of a sudden Skylar comes on up and he goes, "Dad, don't hit Mama." I go, "Skylar, I'd never hit your mom." And about that time, she heard Skylar make the comment to me, and she come running out of the bedroom and goes, "Skylar, your dad's never hit me. He's did nothing but treated me with respect and the whole 9 yards." And I was watching Skylar's reactions while she was saying all this, and it's like that cartoon where the jaw drops and hits the floor.
Right.
That's exactly what happened with Skylar. So I had inklings that she was putting a lot of stuff in the kids' head. I had, nothing positively, but, the stuff about me molesting Skylar and all that, I do know that he had a problem with his first circumcision. It didn't go right, and he wound up with his sister or something. I don't know what it was. I've never seen it.
Poor kid.
And Shauna would always take care of that. Now, one night she goes, "Well, your son's in there taking a shower, and I think he got soap down there. You need to go check it." And I started down the hall, and then I stopped and thought, whoa, wait a minute. You've never asked me to go check on Skylar before. So I turned around, went back into the front room, and go, "Look, you've never asked me to check on Skylar before. Now, if it's that big a problem, let's get him to the pediatrician and see what we can do about getting the circumcision took up." She went ahead and went off, and she goes, "Fine, I'll just take care of it." And she went to the bathroom and took care of it. Now, she used to make fun of Skylar while she was doing it because he would get an erection. And I never could understand that one either. But
It definitely seems there's a lot of, there is a genetic component to psychopathy, where it's handed down genetically, and don't want to get too much into the science of clinical psychopaths, but this is something that I've seen in my own case, where a mother and son interaction that is just so unhealthy. It's incredible. But getting back to the night in question, and we're running out of time a little bit here, but getting back to that night, so she had a solid alibi, it sounds like, until Sunday morning. What time did she say she arrived?
She said she got back late on the 6th and didn't check on the kids until the next morning.
So it was before she got back at about what time? Before the 7th? Before midnight?
I don't know if it was before midnight or after. Which it didn't make any sense to me.
Well, I'm trying to think of, and of course, detectives must have gone through this over and over, but the time frame that it would take a 17-year-old, to drag the body and hide it and come back and get cleaned up or whatever, and act normal. It doesn't. It seems like the time frame may be part of the issue there. Would you suggest, if she was culpable, if she was guilty of this, that she came home and perpetrated this crime that night after she got back from the pool game?
Well, after catching bits and pieces about this, like I said, nobody remembers seeing Terry Jr. after the 4th of July.
Or after the 4th of July?
Yeah, 4th of July.
So there was 3 days.
He just been dead a week earlier.
Yeah, that's okay.
And I do know, and everybody that heard the story, everybody that watched the story on the news and all that, they all said the story sounded way too rehearsed and way too put together.
So you think even Mary, even the 14-year-old, was told, the boy disappeared, your son disappeared, and this is what we're going to say, and then rehearsed it over and over again for 3 days prior to reporting it, and then there was another 3 days, of course.
Yeah, because from what I understand, before she dialed the police department, she called the store.
Oh, she called what now?
She called the store. Menifee Market. She called Menifee Market, then she called the cops.
Oh, good Lord.
Which is another thing that doesn't make any sense to me.
She
called the store and then turn around and call the cops. So first thing in my mind was, well, look, I found my son. I'm going to get a hold of the cops. Why call the store?
Oh, man, I'm right behind you on that one. That sounds a lot like Casey Anthony there.
Yeah.
That's again clinical psychopathy. I think that she is definitely part of that what you're referring to here.
All those stuff. Look what stuff she put Skyler through since, like I said, since he was 7. Now, see, when Skyler left here, he was about 7 and a half, and he was in school, and so was his brother Jeremiah, his sister Mary, and his sister Hannah. The four of them, the only one that wasn't in school at that time was Terry Jr. Mm-hmm. And she told me, she said, well, I just need to go. I need to get out of here and go find out what I could be other than a wife and a mother. And I go, well, you're not batting 100% in that. And I wasn't trying to be mean. I was just being honest. And she told me she was going. I said, Sean, don't go to the school. Wait till the kids come home, and then you do it. And then you can sit them down, and then you can take Skylar. Well, she went to the school, took all 4 kids out of their class, down into the office, and right in front of everybody. This is his brothers and sisters, and a teacher, and office personnel, and everybody. She lowered the boom and told him, well, your dad's not your dad, and you're going to meet you. I got to go sell some jewelry, and I'll be back to get you. And even when the child advocate lawyer went to the school to investigate everything, even the school said it was highly inhumane and outlandish, and the whole nine yards. They weren't happy at all with Shauna, because Shauna came back, she took Skylar out, and she left Mary, Hannah, and Jeremiah totally devastated. And it took them almost the rest of the day to get them calmed down. And when they got off the bus, they were totally confused leaving. And that's when she decided to go call the cops. And the cops came up, and I went to I grabbed the kid because she was going off on her own little whatever, and I went to get the kid. Well, she snagged Skylar out of my hand and yanked him back into the house. So this one's not going with you. And we went, and I drove all the way out to Milton, West Virginia, which is about 40 miles out of Charleston. I had Terry Jr., Mary, Jeremiah, and Hannah. And I went to my nephew's place. And sure enough, the cops showed up, and the cops said, well, there's nothing we can do about it because he left, and, the whole thing had been disarmed. They didn't see any marks or whatever on her. And she called me the same night or the next day and asked me if I was coming back home. And I go, I'm not going back down there. I said, I'm sick and tired of you said that's in your boy. And she goes, no, the cops came and they said there was nothing they could do about it because you got up and left, and it was totally disarmed. And she convinced me to come back home. But I have seen her temper.
Yeah.
And she has got a temper.
Now, let me ask you, Mr. Smith. I understand there is a petition going on right now for Terry's Law. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And would you?
It's still on my Facebook thing. Justice Denied, You Decide. His story's right there. If you click on the story, and you go down through the story. Now, some of the parts of the story have the links have been disabled and all that, but other links still work. And the one that says petition is underlined in blue. If you click on the word petition, the petition will show up and you can sign the petition.
Right, and again, that's on Facebook, and it's called Justice Denied, with 2 question marks, You Decide, 2 exclamation points, excuse me. And so we'll find the link there. And what do you hope to accomplish with the petition?
Well, one thing, from what I heard, when they first wanted to go check the house and all that, they were informed that they're in a grievance stage. Could they come back later or something to that effect? So the house wasn't searched right away, from what I understand. Now, I've been getting conflicted reports about that because from what I was getting from the detective, she wasn't being forthcoming with a lot of information and all that. She wouldn't even tell him where he had his dental work done. And, at that time that he had his dental work done is the time that she took off to New York, and I couldn't tell him. I said, I know you didn't get it done in West Virginia. I said, but the only place that I know would be up around Jamestown, New York. And I think they finally got the dental work. Now, another thing that totally threw me off, I seen a thing on the news or something that they used her DNA to ID the body.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know how much of that was because I talked to the police department on that one there too. And I do know going through research and checking on stuff, our mother's DNA can get up to, I think they said, 68 to 70%.
Mitochondrial DNA, yeah.
That's the reason they use the father's DNA is because it can get up to 99.9.
Right.
On the DNA.
Yes, sir. Now,
that's another thing that had me totally confused is why his body was in such shape that they couldn't ID. Now, if there's just one blow to the head, and he's only been there for 3 days, the body shouldn't have been messed up that bad.
yeah.
Would they have to use dental work and all that?
What
That's another thing that just doesn't match.
Any type of hypothesis? I mean, just any type of initial feeling or thoughts as to what if she did this even 3 days before, or the news went out and they started looking. So we're looking at maybe a week before they found.
That's a possibility.
What? But what could she have done with the body?
That's the thing that's got me. I don't. I've never seen the thing out there. I don't know if they got freezers out there or if they got. Somebody made a comment about a bathtub full of water, and even that came out
Because it seems to me that would be a very pertinent place for detectives to go look.
Exactly.
You know, if they work on the premise that, look, nobody saw this child 3 days prior to the reported disappearance, well, where was the body? I mean, 3 days is a long time. Even and given the heat, I mean, the heat was like 100 degrees, right?
Yeah. Well, I do know that she had a pet grooming business going down there too. So,
Mm.
and there was a couple of sheds out there. But there's multi places. They got the garage, they got the shed. I do know that Mary made the comment that to somebody, and like I said, a lot of this is hearsay, but it's still going away right into the program and all that. The reason that they didn't want anybody searching the house was because the body was in the house. Now, that was another hypothesis that was brought out. But, even Mary was coming up with these hypotheses. Now, I don't know why she called all the way out to North Carolina and tell her cousins out there that her brother was found in the backyard all cut up and burnt. But don't tell your aunt this, And because my sister called, because as soon as Mary called her cousins, that they went up and told her mom that, and her mom turned around and called me and told me that about the phone call, and and with Mary, Shadow, she's a good storyteller. She can get you good thought. She make a good used car salesman or an encyclopedia salesman, because she can turn it on. I'll tell you. She had me fooled because there's times that, I even talked to her brother about some stuff that she said happened in her life and all that. And I asked her brother, I said, why didn't she stay in Chicago with her grandmother if she was better, she felt she was better there than being with her mom and dad? And her brother told me, he goes, Terry, that never happened. She goes, the only time Shauna's ever been out of the state of California is when you took her out. And she had me totally in belief that she lived with her grandmother in Chicago.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's part of the thing where anyone who is it.
That's another. And another thing on the social.
Yes, yes.
Is been going from victim to victim.
Right.
You think you're in a relationship, but you're just another mark.
Right. No, it sounds like she's, from what you're saying, and of course, I'm, just throwing this out there as a non-professional, but it does sound, from personal experience, I can tell you that this may be a case of this woman, your ex, Shauna Smith, being a clinical psychopath. I don't know, but the circumstances sure would warrant further investigation. Now, we touch base on the petition. Sir, we're again running out of time. What is there anything else that you'd like to see as a result of your what you're saying now, going out to the media? What do you want to see happen?
It's like I said on national news out there now. Yeah, I didn't go out there to bash my ex and all that.
No.
I want plausible answers to the questions that are coming out. And it's not just me, but even a lot of the researchers out there and all that. None of them were buying that Skyler carried that body 75 feet to out of from behind the house and dug a hole. Because there's people out there that do gardening and all that, and they go, Mr. Smith, you don't understand. This is hard clay. It takes a lot to dig a hole, even a shallow hole. And not only that, but that's right around the trees. We've got roots and everything else because those trees out there, the roots, they spread out quite a bit.
Was there ever anything to indicate? Was there ever a shovel or a pick or anything that?
From what I understood, there was a couple of shovels and everything taken out of the house and all that. But I don't know. Like I said, a lot of this stuff I just get second in. And the sad part about the whole situation, I know I'm thousands of miles away from California, but they leave me in the dark, and the thing with the death certificate still got pending, and the wrongful information about him being in California for 11 years. Even the DA said he wouldn't buy a lot of the stuff that was being told to him that it could be what Skyler said. It could be that they got into it over a video game. Now,
Well, sir, if
You know,
we're
but I don't want the guessing game.
no,
You know,
no,
so
but
I'm looking for actual facts about everything. You know, and if she did it, because I doubt very seriously, like I said, when I talked to him in January, I'm pretty sure Terry Jr. wanted to tell me a whole lot more about what was going on in California, but he couldn't do this. But I was standing right there.
it's
And
not.
she was not supposed to be standing, listening in on the phone call.
Yeah,
So there's a court order back here that my phone calls to both the kids were not to be molested or whatever by her.
it just sounds like there's so many holes to this story that there's so, it just doesn't. It sounds like it definitely warrants further investigation. When you spoke to the DA, I mean, did he go on the premise of like, maybe she came there and found the body and then covered everything up?
No, he could just go by with it's plausible. That was his word. It's plausible with what Skyler said. And that's all I ever got, plausible. Well, it's plausible that China did it days before.
Right.
And just Skyler Ford,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get, it's like, a river. If you put a block in the river, then you get streams going all over the place. I want that block took out and at least find out I'm coming down instead of going, off of this plausible scenario and then this plausible scenario on that plausible
Well, that's why it takes, the investigators. But so you're actively involved in getting the district attorney and the law enforcement, FBI, getting people involved in this?
When I talked to the police out there, they said that it was over with because Skyler confessed. Now, the DA, when I talked to him about filing charges on her, I never got no word with that either. The survivor advocate says it's highly unlikely that he'd go for it. And I do know the DA said, well, it's harder in a criminal case to come up with a conviction than it is a CPS case, which I doubt highly could. She openly admitted that she left Terry Jr. with Skyler, even if that story is not true. She openly admitted, and she positively knew exactly what kind of shape Skyler was in.
Yeah, so that's negligence.
That right there is child endangerment.
Right. Now, I was wondering if there was any. Yeah, exactly. There's negligence, child endangerment, and if she had any party, she was an access. She was a accessory after the fact if she helped cover up the crime, even if she didn't commit it. So again, this is something where it seems to me from a distant perspective here that it definitely warrants a lot more investigation. And we are out of time right now. Again, special thanks to John Anderson, who normally hosts the show, and members of the Stolen Club. You'll find us at stolen.club, and you can see us on YouTube. We're part of the Beating the Drums for Children groups, which are amazing. You can find them on Facebook. And Mr. Terry Smith, his Facebook website is Justice Denied, You Decide. And Mr. Smith, I'll give you the last word here. Is there anything you'd like to say as a final parting words?
All I want to do is just try to get some plausible answers to all these questions that are going out, and that way, at least I can start healing. Because right now, the way things are going, there's way too many areas, and way too many things flying all over the place. And, even Shauna said, well, why don't you go by the memories that you had of Terry Jr. and let it drop? Well, she didn't stop and think about the last memory I had positively with Terry Jr. was him crying back in January to come home. That was the last words that I got from my son out there in California. Good
Lord.
Now, she wants me to leave it at that. But that's not the right kind of memory.
No, and let's hope that something comes of this, and they don't drop the ball on this. We need some more investigation. There's a lot to this case that defies belief, that makes you wonder exactly what happened. And hopefully we will find some more answers in the future. Mr. Smith, it was a pleasure having you on the broadcast tonight. Thank you very much, sir. I hope with any updates that you'll be able to come back on the show.
Sure.
Terrific. I look forward to seeing you on Dr. Phil, and I know you're doing other media spots. Anything else that you'd like to promote right now, sir, by way of websites?
No, like I said, I got Justice Tonight, You Decide, and, even Beating the Drums got some information on it. That Becky has been a real angel and all that.
Becky is amazing. She is actually literally a miracle worker, and I know she doesn't want me to mention her or give too many kudos, but yeah, we're talking about the real deal there. So you have your petition. We have the website as Justice Denied, and thank you again, sir. I'm very sorry for everything that's happened that you've been through. But I do hope that at least you can get some kind of resolution and find out exactly what the details were.
Yeah, that's all I'm looking for.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Have a great evening, sir. Again, this is Steve Sumner. And again, you'll find us online at stolen.club, the Beating the Drums for Children groups, and on YouTube. Thank you very, very much, and have a pleasant evening.
Silverman Slims, your #1 review dealer. We offer Google reviews, Yelp reviews, Facebook review, website reviews, and more. And for a price that no one can beat. Want to make your business grow? Want to gain better SEO business profile? This is the right place to go. With top-notch service, they get the job done. Real reviews written by real people. That's Silverman Slim, the best and only place to go for the best price in review sales. Making businesses grow is our business. www.silvermanslim.com